Welcome to the Quantum Awakening podcast, where we invite you to embark on a profound exploration of conscious evolution, human transformation, DNA upgrades, and the harmonious fusion of science and spirituality. Guiding you through this enlightening journey are your dynamic hosts, Sharon Milne Barbour and Amanda Bowden. With their extensive knowledge and expertise, they will serve as your trusted leaders of knowledge. Sharon, with her deep spiritual insight and celestial race knowledge, will shed light on the mystical aspects of your existence. Meanwhile, Amanda will share her expertise around manifesting, mind-body-soul connections, and how science and psychology are intertwined with spirituality. Join us on a transformative journey to enhance your perspective and to bring you enlightenment.
Hello, and welcome to our Quantum Awakening, Exploring Conscious Evolution podcast. I'm one of the hosts, and the other host is Amanda Bowden, and my name is Sharon Milne Barbour. And first of all, we're just going to tell you a little bit about ourselves as an introduction. So would you like to start, Amanda, saying what you've done?
So, I'm an author of 2 books, Spirology, Reflection of Self, Spirology, The Hero's Journey, and Spirology is literally connecting psychology, science with spirituality and mind-body connections.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you do manifestation and numbers and things, don't you, as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're connected. You'll be hearing about all this as we go through podcasts, because things that we are expertise on will obviously come out. I am a holistic healer and a channeler of celestial beings who have channeled through me 14 books so far, and I'm just starting my 15th. My background is 40 years of graphic design. I love to help people on their spiritual development, and between us we have a vast amount of spiritual knowledge which we're going to bring to you in these podcasts. So first of all, we start off by really explaining how Quantum Awakening came about. Should I tell them about the AI? Well, we put into AI what we wanted our podcast to be about, and they came up with this the phrase.
Yeah, and we also asked our guides to help and assist us in doing this because they can intervene, which is why partly it's quantum, because they can interact with our devices, which is cool.
Yes, yeah, and I found that with my writing. They influence the AI. So the other day I put some text into it, from a chapter, and I'd already put stuff from another chapter through, which led up to this chapter, and they took information from that chapter, dropped it in. Well, I wouldn't like to think that AI have that intelligence yet, but my guides influence things, and your guides will influence your life. So what is quantum? I'm going to go over to Amanda for that one.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Where do we start? So quantum awakening. So for me, the quantum part is more around the logical way of looking at things, because people are starting to wake up and they're asking questions, and one of the easiest ways to go through an awakening, when you're waking up to spiritual knowledge and you're looking to people who you can go to and different things like that, from a quantum perspective, in a logical way, it bypasses what is known as cognitive dissonance, which is what so many people experience when they're going through awakening, because there's so many different things going on at the same time, and our brains are trying to make sense of it. And so when you bring in the quantum side of it, the science, the psychology that connects to spirituality around it, kind of helps us to understand it a bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've had to explore quantum for my latest book because I wasn't really up on it, and I understand, talking to Amanda, we're going into a quantum age. So I wanted to analyse what does quantum mean, and the book I'm writing is from celestial beings' point of side, and they write in the earth language for us to understand. And what they're doing at the moment, what came out of it for me, is they're changing the language we're using. And all through history, they have put words in place to try and get us to ignite and reignite into a more spiritual way. And what's happening now is, because science is beginning to understand that there are celestial beings, there are telepathic communications, there are influences which they've never admitted or understood, are starting to come to the forefront. That's why it's going to be called a quantum age, because it's just connecting all the science, the maths and everything together into a spiritual understanding. So, like, if you talk about dimensions are put into a very mathematical understanding on the earth realm. But if you talk to the guides, they talk about it in a completely different way. So they're starting to bring this understanding to us that's so much more out there. And basically our scientists and mathematicians at the moment are in a very narrow 3D reality, and they need to spring out into the fourth and fifth understanding. And basically everything they understand at the moment would be flipped. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally agree with that. And that's exactly where like the universal numbers has come from, because for me, when I was writing my first book, it was going through like a self-discovery period. Like numbers, they were popping up when I didn't know what they were. And then first of all, it resonated with like angel numbers, but then my guides, especially like Tom, because he's my highly ascended guide that I found out this year, he's my ascension guide, he's helping me with that. And kind of making the numbers more quantum, because you can use them for absolutely anything, and there's so many different levels to them that they're teaching me right now. And I've put like the Master Miracle Manifesting, a course in miracles together, so people can do the same thing, because it essentially navigates you on your life path, and you can connect to your guides and do self-development around it. So it's pretty cool.
So I understand from that basically there's some beautiful celestial beings that are trying to help Earth at the moment, are working as hard as they can with our 3D information, but trying to ascend us towards a higher understanding. And this higher understanding will be us tapping into the knowledge of what we call the university knowledge pot. And this will become when we start to have our greater understanding. Because a lot of you probably realise we hardly use any bits of our brain. We're very limited in our thinking and our conscious reality, and we can expand. And I don't know if Amanda's found this when she's been channeling, is that I find I can only channel for about half an hour on a book, and then I can't cope with any more. And that's because the way my brain is at the moment has its limitations. But if I was a fifth, six-dimensional being, still in physical form, and I'd expanded my mind, I could be channeling all day long, having conversations with beings on the other side of the universe and all sorts.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, like the awakening part is literally where your subconscious is not aware of like spiritual stuff, your gifts, things that are unlocking within your DNA from past lives that you've had, and different things like that. And I guess we're expanding our consciousness, becoming more aware of who we are, who we truly are, and it's connecting us to our higher selves and other things as well, like you said, like the celestial guides, which for me, I call them my universal team of guides, because that's the new language that I'm being given at the minute to roll out and teach people too.
So I've been given new language for my mediumship book I wrote as an example, and it's just they've just renamed, like mediums aren't called mediums anymore. They're light worker communicators, trance communicators. It's just all, they're trying to change it into this new way of thinking, which will go into the quantum era. And what I'm being told by my guide John, who's actually just talking to me at the moment, I'm trying to speak, which makes it really hard, is that the celestial guides have all got together on this. They have found, and they admit it, that over time they're guardians, and they sometimes work in their own teams. But what they've done now to try and help us is to pull together and set a momentum going that they're all in agreement. So what should happen through your work, if you're a light worker, medium, or whatever, you should start to become aware of this new language. If you're a trance channel, you should start coming in from your guides what this new language is. You might read a book and you'll pick it up that way.
That's cheating, that is mine. Having a guide. I can't do that. She's very gifted. I can't do that.
Sorry about that. Yeah, but well, it's not. Well, perhaps I'm modest. I don't think
No,
of
you're more
myself
developed
as
than me.
gifted. What we have to understand is we come into this world as a baby, full of love, actually fully ignited, ready to go in the spirituality, in the high energy. But then we're born into this 3D reality. That's why we cry when we're born. It's a bit of a shock. Like, oh my God, I'm here again, and off I go, and I've got to wait till my 20s before I get my spiritual enlightenment or whatever it is. So, yeah, and, I've had experiences all through my life, and I didn't look for any of it. It just came to me. It's like,
Yeah, that's true. It just, like, when you first awaken spiritually, it can be, like, people think it's all fluffy and unicorns, and
it's not.
Definitely not.
No.
It's like, for me, it was like a crisis point where I literally reached like rock bottom, and it was like letting go of parts of me that no longer served, and then becoming aware of like what was and who I really was. And it's just like you go through those stages, and then it's more like ascension then, isn't it, as you go up through the
It's
levels.
layers. It's like they always talk to me about layers of energy. Anything we do is layers of existence through to healing, like Amanda's just said. Mine also was a catalyst that set me off. It was postnatal depression, severe, and suicide. That's basically what triggered my opening back onto a spiritual, and that was in my late 30s. So it doesn't always happen when you're young. Some people, I've met people at workshops that are coming in at the 60s and 70s because they've lived their life, they've seen, they've felt, and they know there's something else. And it can be that it can be through grief, or it might be they've just now got the time to explore it and it's their time to grow, or there could be another reason.
Yeah, that's true. Like mine started, oh my God, years ago, wasn't it? It was literally when I met you as well, which was really
That's
good.
enough to start anything off that.
But mine was more like around characters who were towards a narcissistic, psychopathic way, and mine was more psychological. So I was going through all that at the same time, and then I was seeing the numbers, and I was really curious as to what was going on. And then as I was building myself back up and developing myself, because you was the first teacher that I went to, which was really cool. And so it's just led to where I am now, and discovering that my higher self is actually an avian phoenix blue-ray, which is the only word I can think of is weird but cool, but it's
mine's from the planet Duckrat. As a female, I've never been given her name, which is interesting. But they're channeling this book at the moment because it's from that planet. The books are based around that planet. So yeah, your guides, your higher selves are going to be from various places. They can be physical, multi-dimensional, transitional beings, or light. A light as a conscious light, not what we'd understand as a physical form. Mind you, when we say multi-dimensional, transitional, it means multi-dimensional means they can work through various dimensions. Some could go into higher, some lower, depending on where they're from. And then the light conscious beings are usually of higher ascension, and they can transcend into a physical form or stay in a light form. So an example of this is when my guide John arrived in the middle of a dog walk on the field. He announced himself. I was doing a live. I was doing a live on the phone, and I remember it was like a whoosh of energy, and he announced himself, and I thought I was imagining things. And I remember saying it on the video. And then he showed me as a human life he'd had, an incarnated life. Because what you probably need to realise is a lot of guys will have had an incarnated life on Earth to experience it. Because they say you learn and become the better teacher. And then a couple of years ago in a trance session, just before COVID, he said that he was never going to show himself to me as that again, because he is a light conscious being, and I need to know his true form, which is what's happened. And his energy changed, and it became more of a, I don't know if you have this with your guides, it's more of a knowing they're there rather than needing to see or feel them.
I don't see them anyway, so for me, it's more feeling that they're there, because over the like duration of lockdown and different things, it gave us a bit of time to do self-development. And I literally had a piece of paper on my fridge and I wrote like a little picture, you know, like the stick man you get. And I was asking them to touch me in certain places on my head to know who my guides were, and that's how I
That's a good
kind of
idea.
learned.
Yeah.
So that was for me the basics of learning who they were. And now coming into like doing meditation, and then I asked my higher self to come in, and her name is Ray. And she is a Lemurian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I've just been writing about the Lemurians.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's one of the characters in the book, coming back to the Atlantis period. But yeah, so we'll probably plod back to quantum a bit on our conversation now. So the quantum, I was doing a bit of study on this, like you do, because my guides had me. So whether I write about anything, I need to obviously learn and study on what I picked up from Amanda. And quantum, the first use of quantum was for the tiniest particle, for the tiniest, nothing could be ever smaller of it. And it's just interesting how the word usage now is like, there was a lot happening in the 80s with the computer technology. And what's his name? Sir Clive Sinclair.
Oh, yeah.
Brought out a new computer which was like ahead of his time. He called it quantum leap, because the quantum leap then was being used as a big move forward. So the language had changed, and quantum first came into play in the 1600s.
Wow.
And then at the same time, the Apple guy, Joe, what was his name? Steve Jobs, that's it. He brought out, I think it was the second Apple at the time, Macintosh. And of course, you know about that, or the revolution that started from that. Now, this information for these computers were put into the atmosphere of Earth because our guardians thought at the time we were actually at that stage of development and evolution that we could take this information and use it. So what do you think to that?
That's really cool. And it just brought something up for me, because that reminds me of a guy who in history we know as Nikola Tesla.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And yeah, he had loads of ideas around wireless technology, which is what we call Wi-Fi now.
And that's over 100 years ago.
Yeah. And he knew back then. And even like people like Einstein.
Yeah,
there's been so many people in the history who've come out with ideas that are coming through now, and that science is just catching up with it now. Or like with Nikola Tesla, he had all his ideas, but they didn't want him to come through because he was like, you know, free energy, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
it was all to do with money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it still is. Yeah, sadly.
Yeah.
I wrote about that in New Earth, and they said that the governments have actually taken his technology and developed it, but they won't release it because it will break down society. Studies start giving away free things. Doesn't work. It will do one day because the world will change.
Yeah, and sometimes
there's a gravity invention for moving vehicles has also been
that's cool.
Designed.
Yeah. I was going to say as well, like, it's reminded me around Nostradamus, because in a different perspective around him and his way his mindset worked, and the way he was, what did they call him? The prophet? I can't remember the name.
Prophecy, yeah.
Yeah, he was bringing things
He wrote a book, didn't he?
Yeah, and then I remember you explaining a while back, like, how he could see into the future, like possibilities of where we are now and what he's come up with, because it's all quantum and it's all different realities, different layers.
Timelines.
Yeah, and it's really incredible, really.
So with the multiverse timeline, is that Nostradamus could be sitting in his room in his meditative state, getting this premonition of what's going to happen in the future, writing it down, and if say me or say I was in trance and his timeline connected to that moment I went into trance along the multiverse timeline into the future, I would have been able to spoken to him. He could have spoken to me. So he's dead. But he's not dead as in coming from his home source in the celestial universe. He is on a multiverse recorded timeline that exists in Earth in multi-dimensional layers. If he then goes into meditation the next day, so say he predicts the Third World War and things that happen, some of his stuff's come true and some of it hasn't, it's because when it's come true, it's hit the right timeline, but he's sat there and predicted stuff, and things can move, nothing is set in stone. And we were just having a cup of tea before we started, weren't we? We were talking about a possible Third World War and the way people could make it happen through talking about it and focusing on it. So that's how things can shift. So
yeah, because essentially we are master creators of our own reality, and that's what we've come here to learn, really, is how to master, because your thoughts are what create your reality. Your thoughts turn into actions, and also the pineal gland part of your brain, and it's tiny, is probably smaller than a grain of rice, and like most animals have this within their heads, their brains, head brains, and they're in tune with like the earth and the resonance of the earth, and they're also how we connect to our higher selves, how we send out like a radio, really, our messages out into the world, our thoughts go out and then they come back. And because of the law of attraction, what we put out into the world is what we bring in. And there's also a part of your brain called the RAS, which is the reticular activating system, which is a bit like a Google search engine, really. So whatever you put in there, your thoughts, and what it could be, stuff that you're watching, it could be stuff that you're listening to, it could be conversations, people you meet, that kind of thing. Whatever you focus on is what you bring into your reality, and that's why they say we're master creators.
So we're going to need to do a podcast on manifestation, I've just been told.
Okay,
So that'd be cool.
that's Sharon's guide talking to us, by the way. You'll get used to it.
Yeah, I'm having two-way conversation. I forget, it becomes norm, I'm afraid. It's only because he's been with me all morning. Usually they only come in when I'm working or channeling, and of course I was channeling just before Amanda came, so I'm going to be buzzing later, aren't I?
But it's all good.
So I don't know, where do we go now with the conversation?
So like there's one part we haven't touched, and that's like the mind-body connections with quantum, like
cool.
the evolution side of
yeah.
things, conscious
Let's go
evolution.
there with that. That's cool.
So like I've noticed since around, so we're in 2023 now, and it's November, I think we're recording this, and I've noticed that since July, even though I've experienced this for the last 2 years, because my guides generally bring it in 2 years before, because I'm autistic, so it's easier for me to get used to change. So like people are subconsciously doing things, and they're starting to ask questions like, oh, what's synchronicity, what's this, what's that.
All right. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and so what they're doing is, they don't notice, is they're actually going into quantum themselves. So we're kind of expanding, and our conscious evolution is expanding who we are, what we do. So like not only the outside tech, like our computers and different things that are going quantum, so are we as well, which is really cool. But it comes with some things, like sometimes I get overwhelmed because it's quite a big change, and then it's learning new things about yourself, like, in what's coming for you. Yeah, it's a huge change,
because we've got to change how we've led our lives for hundreds of years, a way of thinking. Science has got to change, technology. AI is a massive evolution connected with quantum. Well, that's another subject for another day, probably. Let's not go down that one. Yeah. But so I tell you, it's got to be honest, listeners, it can do your head in, and we're just trying to grasp all this. We're coming through this through our channeling and our ascension, and our understanding, and we've been working together for quite a long while. We actually help mentor each other. So I say something to Amanda and her guide about something back, or Amanda will say something to me. We do it on Messenger and all sorts, don't we? And we sort of almost guiding each other through this journey. And that's why it's time now for us to start talking about it and bring it to you.
And like as well, I've noticed that now we're more connected and different things. Like we're more telepathically connected as well. But
Yeah.
that's our guides or us, I don't know. But we kind of know when to text each other and different things. So this is kind of like just touching the basis of what a quantum awakening is and exploring conscious evolution, because it is huge. And so what's happening with us is we're going towards a new perspective, a new earth. If that's exactly what conscious evolution is. There's so many different ways you can express it, isn't there?
So it's almost like, putting it into a simple term so I can understand it, it's the awakening period, which has been the COVID, the changes, the way people change how they look at the world and everything. And on the back of this is this evolution of change of language, which is seeping in the work you've done, your understanding. And this must be happening to thousands of other people out there as well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I did a video the other day, because sometimes I can feel, why am I doing all this? And I feel a bit lost in it. And I did a video, and basically my guide said to me, you are a dot of light. And this dot of light is going to be millions of dots of light, and that's what the world needs. And they're slowly just bringing it to people, and they're bringing it to people in different ways, through music, through art. Now that was something I found out the other day. And through writing and channeling, and what we're doing now. So if you do feel like that, don't give up. Just keep going. Whatever you do, whatever your ascension level is, just keep going.
And literally what is happening right now is, even though things look crazy on the outside, there's like a mass gathering going on as well, as people are coming together, and they may come from different places as light workers. They may be, I don't know, professionals like doctors, mathematicians.
They're starting to see
you name it, everything. They're coming together because we're building our own community, and that's exactly where we're going. We're creating a more positive outlook.
So, hope you enjoyed our first ever podcast. Yay! We don't know what the subject is for the next one, because we're going to go have a cup of tea now and discuss it. So we wish you all well, and take care of yourselves, and see you on the next one. Thank you.
Bye.